one of our big focuses for the running space is to inspire the next generations, to encourage them to move, to, look after their mental health, to create positive habits. Mafia Moves is born and bred out of North London, Tottenham to be specific, and we've been going for coming up to 5 years in August. When you think about it now, I'm 29, but at the time you wouldn't think you'd make it to your 16th birthday, 18th birthday, 21st birthday. Seeing Mafia Moves spray painted on the road was such a big moment for me. So I'm Andre, I am a runner, I'm 29 years old, and I have a community, very important community to me called Mafia Moves, based out in North London. And yeah, I've been running for about 14 years this year. So I've been going for a little while.
I want to start with the top line of your Instagram bio, making moves for the next generation. Break it down for me. Talk to me about that.
Right. So there's many people that don't know this. I actually trained as a teacher, and I was a teacher for 5 years. And the sort of essence that I learned while being a teacher, I went primary and I've done secondary. And what I noticed was that my relationship with the younger generations were amazing. I understood them. I was able to give them opportunities and experiences, like not just about sports, but about life. And I'm quite open. So, some kids, especially teenagers, go through a lot of life challenges and they feel like they have to figure it out because they can't approach anyone. And it was nice that I was able to be there for them. And I've now, recently transitioned that into running and into movement. And one of my big focuses for the running space is to inspire the next generations, to encourage them to move, to, look after their mental health, to create positive habits and, hopefully have positive experiences out of, life in general. So yeah, that's sort of explains my Instagram bio.
Do you think that those years as a teacher and training as a teacher, do you think that's kind of helped you get to where you are today with the community that you've been building?
Yeah, it's definitely contributed to it. I guess with teaching, you come across so many different people, so many abilities, so many backgrounds, and it's the same thing with running. You meet so many different runners with different abilities, from different backgrounds that, have different needs, and they're very, transitional. Not transitional, translatable. You can dissect a single person and, for example, yourself, you will not be the same as me, in how we move, how we live, how we, consume nutrition. And that's what I really wanted to focus on with individuals I come across now and how it helps me build my running platform. I understand a lot of, different communities and different spaces and places, whether that be in the UK or around the world, and it allows me to get the best out of people.
Where did Mafia Moves first get born then? Where was that? In fact, take me back to kind of the start of that idea and then to where we are now from where we started, that kind of journey.
Yeah, sure. So I used to run with a run club called RunThrough. Very, very historical, one of the first running crews out there that, created a platform for people to express themselves through movement. I also ran with a track-based running crew called Track Mafia, who again, one of the historical places of people being able to express themselves on the track. And, through the two guys, Charlie and Corey, they really inspired me and opened my eyes to a lot, in terms of opportunities and experiences through movement. But they noticed that I'd travel quite a way to go to these sessions. So after a couple of years of, running with those crews, they, said, Andre, I think it's time for you to start your own crew. And initially I thought it was quite scary because I thought, oh my gosh, are you kicking me out? But it wasn't at the time. It was, they saw that I had the knack to attract the right people, the right crowds, and I was super helpful. And while I'm quite a shy and introverted person, I really thrived in this area. And Mafia Moves is born and bred out of North London, Tottenham to be specific. And we've been going for coming up to 5 years in August. So quite a while. We've had to battle a lot of ups and downs, from having different locations to having bag drops out of our vehicles to being removed from places. What else? The pandemic, which was such a big turning point for us.
Yeah.
We're one of the running communities that started pre-pandemic, so that was such a big hit for us. But with the rough comes the smooth, and we've had such an amazing journey, these last 4 and a bit years, that I get the opportunity to relive it twice a week. So it's unbelievable.
Having started it back then 5 years ago, did you think you'd be where you are today?
Oh, definitely not. I thought it was going to come crashing down. I still ask myself now. I always literally look at the runners that come down, and I'm like, wow, this is a Saturday morning. Why do you guys keep turning up? And hearing some of the stories. So we ran the London Marathon, and hearing some of the stories of some of the individuals that were part of our training program and took part in the marathon and completed it. It was really heartwarming, and it allowed me to take a step back and realize that, even though you've created this platform, Andre, a lot of people are going through a lot beyond running. And the fact that I've been able to build this space for people to be themselves, regardless of what they're going through, that 1 hour or 2 hours a week allows them just to release. And it's just such a great outlet that we've come together and we've created. It's not just me, it's people that turn up, that help out, that create this whole experience, what it is.
And like you say, like it must be a bit of a weird feeling, kind of that imposter syndrome a little bit as well, which a lot of people experience when you're kind of there as the figurehead of Mafia Moves, and all these people are coming down and kind of looking at you, and you're like, what have I done to deserve this? Like, how has this kind of happened to me, kind of thing?
Oh yeah, 100%. I often have imposter syndrome, and I'm working on it. I'm working on it to get a bit better, because I do go through that a lot. And it's just having regular check-ins and reflections upon yourself of what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how you want to do things, and what your end goal is, really helps keep them at bay. And also having feedback from people, being yourself, asking questions, asking for feedback, asking what people may want to see or may want to do, definitely helps the journey. So then it becomes less about you and more about your community as a whole. And me personally, I don't do it for the likes, the followers, the brand exposure. If that comes, then great, but it's more impact over numbers. So how can I really impact someone's life for them to then pass the blueprints on down the chain? We're not going to be on earth forever, and it's all about leaving your mark and having a positive influence in someone's life.
And I think if you're doing it for those reasons, you're doing it for all the right reasons, aren't you? You're looking to kind of capture those moments in life rather than, like you say, likes and followers. And if that stuff comes alongside, then brilliant. But yeah, capturing those moments in time that you will have been able to have with people out on a run or at events. There is an incredible photo, a moment in time of you and Anya, fellow Lululemon ambassador, at the London Marathon. And actually, when we were booking this, I think it was like a couple of days after, and I could still tell you were on an absolute buzz from that weekend.
Oh, yeah.
What was that like this year, having that kind of cheer station and seeing all those people?
Do you know what? It's very cliche, but it was like a dream come true. I've been going down to watch the marathon for probably over 10 years, and seeing Random Crew and all the crews that have come before me and how they have activated different cheer stations around the world. And it was just really surreal. The simple things of seeing Mafia Moves spray painted on the road was such a big moment for me and the community. And, having my mum come down, my family, my friends, actually witness what I do day to day. A lot of people don't necessarily understand the whole the running scene, especially beyond the elite running scene. So it's nice for people to experience it, to see the joy that infectious joy that bring it that it comes with, whether you're running or you're spectating, and to see Anya and to see a lot of the team being supported, it's so nice. Whether you know someone or not, you see them, and it's such a great joy to be part of. Yeah, London Marathon weekend was super special.
You mentioned your mum there. What do they think about it? What does your mum think about it? What do your family think about it? Like you say, they don't really understand. Like, what do they think?
She sees that I'm doing something I love. With my background, I wanted to be that child, that teenager that wanted to go to the Olympics, and when that dream kind of came crashing down with injury, not hitting certain times to get to those next levels, it was almost a sticking point where I needed to find something that was as close to that sort of dream as possible. At the time, I didn't know what that looked like, if I'm completely honest, and I had no idea I would end up where I am today. But it's really nice to know that I'm pretty much living the dream that I've always hoped for. So yeah, I'm really happy to see my friends and family be part of the journey as well.
Like growing up and then kind of accepting that maybe you weren't gonna get to the place you wanted to go. Like, what was that acceptance like?
You know what? It's a really tough pill to swallow, if I'm honest. Really, really tough, especially because you've invested so much time and effort into this one thing, missing birthday parties, family gatherings, holidays, for countless years of injury, disappointment, and, hope, that one day it may click. It's tough, but then also it's prepared me for life. So all those disappointments, all those times getting knocked down, I'm able to just battle through life pretty easily, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to fail. I'm not afraid to get told no. You just keep moving forward, just like you would if you picked up an injury. And it was tough to, see a lot of people you grew up with now on the big stage, but, you know, 15 years later, it's really, really nice to see them on the big stage still, because you know what they've gone through. Um, yeah, it was tough, but now I'm really, really happy that I went through that, if that makes sense. Because Anissa said, I tried, but I've managed to find another way.
Do you remember like when running first came into your life? How did it happen? What's the backstory behind it? Because obviously, whatever that moment was, that's kind of like your, in a superhero movie when they have like an origin story. I feel like that's like your origin story, isn't it? Like however that happened.
Yeah, so I was always a very active child. I would never walk anywhere. If my sister took me to the shops, I would be hop, skipping, jumping around. She'd literally have to hold on to me. I was that child in the supermarket with the reins on that literally had to be kept close because I'd be off. But my first proper running experience was in secondary school. Again, I was quite a fit child, and my PE teacher needed someone to fill in for an athletics competition, and I was currently in detention, so I was still in school, and I had the opportunity of running or staying in the classroom and doing the detention, and I chose to run. I was like, you know what, get a day out, and I didn't know how it was going to go. I turned up, basketball shorts and a pair of Converse, I think I was in, and ran a 1500 meters and actually won the borough championships. And from there, it was like, wow, there's loads of people watching you. You can rely on yourself, and the energy and the buzz you get from running a race and it going well was unbelievable. And that's when my journey kind of kicked off. I got picked up by my local club, Enfield and Haringey, and the journey from there, that's where it really started. And growing up where I live, it was a tough time to be a teenager and a boy specifically, because there was a lot of negative things going on in the areas, and running was definitely something that kept me going, kept me hopeful, kept me out of trouble. So from school to college to university, I used running to really be part of my life, and I dedicated a lot of time and effort into making this dream come true, moving away at 15 and yeah, just really trying to go for it. So I feel like even though it didn't necessarily end up the way I wanted it to go, I definitely got a lot out of it. And yeah, everything happens for a reason.
When you say moving away from home at 15, what was that like? Because that's a, that's a heck of a step at such a young age when really you're still developing, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. But I guess at the time, it feels like you've lived life already, going through a lot and seeing a lot of things. So a bit of context, one of my school friends sadly lost his life, and it kind of sent us a little bit out of control mentally, not realizing that, PTSD and things like that was actually a thing. You become accustomed to a lot of violence going on. But obviously as adults, you pick things up a lot quicker. And my mom saw that my character was changing and thought it was a good idea for me to get out of the area and experience, or stay surrounded by athletics and the positivity it brings. So it was, yes, it was tough, but at the same time, it was what I needed to do in order to stay focused and stay on the track to hopefully succeed.
What was that time of your life like? That time of your life when, you know, there was there could have been a split in the road, if you will. You could have gone one way or you could have come the other. How was that growing up? And that must have been an incredibly difficult thing to go through.
Yeah, it was tough. It was really, really tough, like when you think about it now, I'm, 29, but at the time you wouldn't think you'd make it to your 16th birthday, 18th birthday, 21st birthday. Those milestones were like impossible. Like, okay, you might make it or you could be next to the news in a coffin. And as sad as that sounds, that was pretty much the reality of the situation we were in. And while I wasn't involved in that life, it was just okay. Maybe I might just be unlucky. I might be that person in the wrong place in the wrong time, and that's where running really became the thing that I needed to stick close to me. So I was getting up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning to make sure I was getting out running before anyone was out doing negativity or had the opportunity to pull me into anything. I'd run down the motorway, to avoid any confrontation with people. Because of where I live, you couldn't run from certain boroughs, so literally within miles of each other. And as a distance runner, that's super difficult. So, running down the motorway was the easiest option. Not best for the lungs and, in terms of emissions, but I felt a lot safer, to run next to cars than to run along the high roads. But it's character building. It's made me learn a lot, and yeah, I think I needed to go through that in order to get out.
It's so difficult to talk about as well, isn't it? Because in one way, I know you're incredibly passionate about where you live and where you lived, and in another way, you're like, well, that could have been the worst thing to happen living in that area because something could have happened. How do you kind of mentally deal with that sort of conundrum between loving a place and knowing you need to get out at the same time?
100%. I feel like the easy option now that I'm older and I realize, I feel like you think that the easy option would just be to move away, right? And hope that someone else changes the area. But when I started Mafia Moves, I was like, you know what? Gentrification's happening. Yes, the area is changing, but I still owe a lot to this area, through life experiences and through some of the opportunities I have had. I wouldn't have become a runner if it wasn't for Enfield and Haringey, the local track. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to start a running crew and I'm going to run to places that I didn't feel comfortable running when I was younger. And you shouldn't notoriously run anyway, and see if we can create positive footsteps in those areas as well. And that's essentially what we've been doing. People see, well, I know we're not a huge run club with 100 plus runners. We're still relatively small, but we are strong, we're strong in the numbers we are, and we run down the high road and we create a load of noise, but it's positive noise. And we need people to see that there is positivity in these negative spaces as well. And we just need people to see it in order for change to happen.
And one thing you do, mate, I mean, from only following you online, I've not met you in person at this point. I'd hope to in the future. Like you do ooze that positivity and passion for where you're from, what you do, and who you are. And I think that's something that people connect to. Probably why Mafia Moves is growing. Probably why you're getting the exposure you're getting. Do you feel that from the inside, or is that a conscious decision to put yourself out there as that person, or is it kind of just the experiences you've had throughout your life have molded you into you, and you're just putting yourself out there as you?
I think my life experiences has definitely molded me into the person I am today. I was quite uncomfortable disclosing all this at first, because I didn't think there was people out there that could relate to some of the things I'd gone through, especially in the running space. But, lo and behold, I was wrong. And it wasn't until I started traveling and speaking to a lot more people that it is very common, to be from different places. And it's okay. And it's also okay to not be surrounded by green spaces and lovely parks and nice coffee shops.
Yeah.
Some people have those experiences and some people don't. And that's okay. As long as we're still running and we're moving and finding a way to make it happen, then, we're all winning. And I probably think it was a sense of embarrassment. I didn't like where I was from, and I didn't really want people to experience what I had experienced. But at the same time now, I'm really proud of where I'm from, and I would love people to experience a little bit of what I've seen, so that it allows them to understand and open their minds to, different things, different opportunities, different scenarios where you need to be a bit smarter and a bit more wiser, and also how to build a community. The people giving opportunities to the people that truly need it. So yeah.
And that's the beauty of running, isn't it? You've kind of just nailed it there. It's like anyone from any background, from any place, with any ability, if they want to run, they can run. And I think that is, that is the true beauty of it. It's amazing seeing you in places like on the cover of Runner's World and at these events, and like we've already mentioned, the marathon, the partnership with Lululemon. The one thing I wanted to pick up on was the cover of Runner's World, because that must have felt a little bit like a moment. And also there was a little headline underneath the picture of you four that said, headline about bringing like life-changing power to all. And I think we've actually probably covered a lot of that in this conversation, but I did want to ask you, like, what has it changed in your life, and how has it changed you?
Do you know what? It has just changed me in so many ways I can't even put for words, from when I wake up in the morning, figuring out my intentions. What am I going up? Firstly, what am I grateful for in terms of life? What is running given me? What is movement given me? You've got to be really, really grateful the fact that we get to open our eyes, take in oxygen, and also be able to move, because some people aren't able to do that. And it's just, I'm so thankful for being able to meet different people almost every single day and sharing stories, sharing experiences, from life and running. And yeah, I feel like I can go on forever, but there's just so many things to be grateful for. And I definitely link that back to running and movement every single day.
5 of 6 stars now we're at, aren't we, when it comes to majors? And when you start a journey like that, I think it feels so far away, doesn't it? Like when you've got your first star, your second star, still feels very far to get your 6 stars, but you're 1 away now. That must feel like it is genuinely almost in reach.
It is, even though I have to run and qualify again, but it is definitely within reach. And again, I had a weird target. I wanted to complete all the 6 world majors before I turned 30, and I'm slowly running out of time. But again, I had to reflect and say, Andre, if it doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world. You have nothing to prove to anyone, and even if you did do this all super quickly, what's next for you? It's all about, I want to be here for the long time, and I want to create some legacy, not just in my name, but what I'm trying to, share with other people. And if it's all over super quick, then, it comes quick, goes quick, right? So if that means me running my last major in a couple of years' time, then, great. But I'm really enjoying the experiences and the journey that running has given me so far.
And sometimes they're the worst. They're the worst goals, not the worst goals, but they're the goals that you're putting on yourself, and you're the hardest about yourself, aren't you? You're like, I have to do this by this time. I know a friend of mine that wanted to travel to X amount of countries before the time he was 30, and towards the end of it, he was saying, like, I'm going to go on a trip and I'm going to go visit 4 countries in a week. I'm like, yeah, but mate, you're not going to enjoy that, yeah, because 90% of the time is going to be traveling rather than doing anything else. Mm-hmm. And I think as runners, sometimes we do the same thing. We're like, I have to do this by this point, when really, if you're 30 or 32, doesn't really matter, does it?
No, it really doesn't. And, that's the same thing when it comes to running for time. I guess there's a time to run fast, and there's a time to enjoy your surroundings. And that's something I've definitely learned running the marathons. They're such a difficult distance that you have to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, it's going to be 26 miles of pure and I don't know the word is.
Insert word. Pure insert word. Yeah. They can be absolutely brutal, can't they? And that is the thing about them. When you look back, when you have hung up your trainers and your spikes, although I feel, Andre, you're always gonna love movement, you're always gonna want to do something. But when you look back on this whole journey that you've been on through this beautiful life that you will have had, what do you hope to be sitting there and looking back on?
Well, that's a great question. Something that I would have built that is able to be passed down for generations, and that's not just necessarily my bloodline, but also other people's bloodlines as well. So whether that is something concrete that people have the space and the opportunity to access things, that is something I'm really hoping towards. But just also being that person that was there for one person or another person that has also taught someone to be there for themselves as well. So it's almost just passing my teachings, what I've taught from my mentors, down to the younger people, for them to teach people that are younger than them. And, whether my name dies out or gets diluted, that's completely fine. But I just want some of the practices and the values and beliefs to stick.
There's a couple more things I want to cover whilst I got you. The one is the kind of concept of silence. It was a reel that I watched of yours a while ago, and I really kind of related to it. That kind of that silence in movement, that being with yourself, that ability to kind of clear your head and go out. Talk to me about that concept of silence, and especially when maybe you're dealing with something outside of movement.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's great to run with people, but it's also great to run alone or move alone, and that's completely fine. Some days you don't need to run for time or distance. You may not need to run with a watch. You just have to be still. Some people meditate, some people go for walks, some people go for jogs, and it's always nice to use different methods to reflect and give back to yourself. I had therapy a couple of years ago, and my therapist used to say, be kind to yourself. And that's what I have to remember sometimes. Andre, yes, you give so much to people within your community and outside of the community, but if you're not being kind to yourself, how can you be kind to others? And that comes with some silence and some real grounding. So just, reassessing your priorities, reassessing how you're truly feeling, what your emotions are, and what you need to do. And I feel like having that silence, and even sometimes you may not even need to think about anything, you know, having that clear mind frame will really help you, you know, attack your day, whether you need to pick the tempo up or actually slow down. You know, having that silence is really, really useful.
And we'll finish with this, man, because I feel like I really would be remiss in not asking you, because there might be somebody listening to this that is in a situation that isn't ideal, whether that be somewhere they live, whether that be in a situation, in a relationship or a friendship, or, you know, in their athletic journey. How do you move forward when you're in a place, when you're in a situation that maybe isn't right for you at the time, from somebody who has been there and has done that? What would you say to them?
I would say, you know, trust yourself. You know, we're all raised to know right and wrong, right? And you need to trust your gut and think about what you would want to be like in 10 years' time, and also what you needed when you were younger. I always look at those two sides of the coin, because when I was younger and going through what I was going through, I didn't really think about my future because I didn't feel like I had a future. But I looked at the younger people and I was like, okay, what image do I need to paint for these people to then grow up and not have the experiences that I had? And that kind of helps you spiral out of your mind state. And equally so, if you're looking at, you know, where you want to be in 10 years' time, I need to know I need to make the right choices and put the right things in place for me to get out of my situation now and be better in myself for my future. And whether that is in, you know, with your mental health, you know, it can be extremely difficult. And that is where you need to lean towards the people you trust and that you can be truly open with. There are always people within your community, or, you know, there are resources that can help you, that allow you to vent and express how you're feeling. And I feel like expression is really important. It's important to really speak up and talk about how you feel. You know, look past the embarrassment and what people might think about you, and just let it out. You know, that's one thing I definitely recommend, is just finding someone you trust and letting it all out.